I want to take a quick minute and talk about David Blanchard. Now, if you remember, David and Kim Blanchard were neighbors to Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee. Okay? Now, after Gypsy did what she did, and she had made the Facebook post, we all know all of this backstory, right? David Blanchard had told the police that he had entered the home through the kitchen window, and he did not notice Dee Dee lying in the bed. There's no way that story is true. No way, because by the time he claims he entered the home, this would have been minimum 3 to 5 days after Dee Dee was gone. Now, here's how I know. I mean, we can also get into the whole thing that how did he get through this window and there's not a mess, because the house was so cluttered. When you see the crime scene photos and the picture of the kitchen, there's lots of stuff on that counter. He would have knocked all that stuff on the floor coming through that window. There's the first reason we know he's lying. But here's how I 1,000,000% know that he did not enter that house. Or if he did enter that house, he knew that Dee Dee was in there. Here's a story, a little story time here. When I was 20, 21 years old, I lived in an upstairs apartment. And to go into my apartment, the stairs were outside. You know, I had to take outside stairs to get to my door. Okay? It was summertime. It was later spring, early summer. I started smelling this horrid smell. And it was kind of coming up through my vents from the heat. So I had assumed that perhaps a mouse had died in the basement, right? And at this time, I'm working this job to where it was 15, 16-hour days, but they allowed you to come home for 2 hours every day. So I remember coming home this particular day. It was hot. And when I was coming up my outside steps, I had to pass by the window of the person in the downstairs apartment. Flies everywhere. Flies. And the smell had gotten 1,000,000 times worse. I mean, this is a smell I can't even... Putrid would be the best way I can describe it. Stomach turning. A smell like no other. Nothing you'll ever smell. You can't even compare this to anything you've ever smelled, okay? I go in, I'm taking a nap. Next thing I know, the landlord is beating at my door. Are you all right? Are you all right? Of course, what's going on? The man that lived underneath of me had done himself in, basically. In his closet, he had formed a noose, and you get the idea. This man was in the apartment, passed away for about, they said, anywhere from 5 to 7 days. Okay, so let's think about this. The flies, the smell. But I started noticing this smell several days before the landlord had came. So, and I could smell this. The smell was so strong, you could smell it while I was walking up these steps to get to my apartment. So, as soon as David Blanchard would have opened that kitchen window, the smell would have hit him in the face. That is how strong this smell is. And you know, this is June or so there would have been flies everywhere because they're drawn to things that are starting to rot, basically. So his story does not add up. And so now, as him helping Becca Scoops and Lori the Dream Expert making their documentary and the whole Truth Train thing, I know Becca is highly intelligent, but I just hope that she is picking apart his lies. Because there is no way that man... And here's the thing I can't figure out, though. I actually believe that he was in on the whole thing. And let me just give you a quick little version of this. I think Dee Dee was gone by the time Nick got there. I think Gypsy, David Blanchard, and Glidewell, Dan Glidewell, I think they were there. I think that whatever happened to Dee Dee happened in the kitchen because, there was spots and some, little splatter in the kitchen. Now, how else would have that got there? So I think it happened there. These are men. They then moved her back to her bed for when Nick got there. And so Nick, he didn't really want to do this anyways. He was probably nervous, beside himself, everything you can think of. And he thought she was still with us. But she had been gone before he got there. And why was Nick was nothing but honest in his interrogations. And he swears that he only, what did he say? 3 to 4 times? Why would all his other details be perfect and he'd lie about that? He wouldn't. Gypsy did the other 13. Gypsy and this David Blanchard and Glidewell. Now, the rumors as if they're involved in this, that they're Luciferians and all that, it's starting to make sense. It's starting to make a whole lot of sense. Let me give a shout out to Karma Collector. Check him out because he breaks this down better than I ever could. But that's my whole point in this little video here, was to tell you there's no, the minute David Blanchard would have opened that window, he would have known Dee Dee was in that home. So, did he never go in the home? Or what do you think happened there? I think his whole story is a lie. I don't think he ever opened the home. I don't think he went in there. I think he already knew that Dee Dee was in there because he was a part of it. And let me stress that these are my opinions. This is not fact-based. These are my opinions. But let me know your theory on the whole crime.